Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this Planning Committee meeting. My name is Councillor Stuart Keithley. I shall be your chair for this meeting tonight. Just before we start, we've always got a little bit of housekeeping. The first thing is about evacuation in the event of a fire. There's no fire test, so if the alarm does go, we go out back to reception through that bottom corner, and the muster point is the car park of the Windmill Pub, not the bar of the Windmill Pub, so we know who's out of the building. Second thing, just to say, these meetings are live streamed and recorded, so to make sure that we can hear what people are saying, please will you remember to have your microphones on and speak clearly into microphones. Thank you. Okay, so just with me on top table tonight is Kira Keller from Democratic Services. Sue Mullins is our legal advisor. Emily Napier is our senior planner. And the case officers presenting tonight are Neil Hempstead, Abby Morris and Richard Greenway. Okay, Emily, I think you've got a statement to read out, please.
Thank you, Chair. My role tonight is to provide impartial advice to committee members and to assist members in their decision taking. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. And members, just to draw your attention to the update sheet, it's perhaps more important than usual, as you will see in respect of the first application and also the reason why the TPO at Sharma Farm Cottage is back on this agenda. Councillor Passingham.
Can I say on the first item on the agenda, the Snitterfield application, the chair of Snitterfield Parish Council is here and the ward member, and there's been a misunderstanding about getting the submission in, but they have got a submission, and they are both here. No, it's not possible to hear any of that.
No, I'm sorry. No, sadly not. One of the reasons is, for a start, the applicant isn't here now to speak either. But the reason we have a hard stop date on responses, so that we know who's coming along to speak, is so that we can manage that situation fairly for all. And there's plenty of notice given to people in respect of coming along to speak. So we have a speaker's deadline for yesterday of 2 o'clock. Okay, and that's a hard and fast rule, Councillor Passingham. Once I start breaking that rule, then people would come here on the day expecting to speak, and that would be unfair. Right, so I've responded to that. Is there anything else to do other than move on to the agenda? So let's move on to the agenda, thank you.
Declarations of interest.
Yeah, well, it's apologies for absence first on the agenda, Councillor Harvey. So I was just going to do apologies for absence. Is that okay? So if you know, yep, we'll just stick with the agenda as it is. So apologies for absence, please, Kira.
We've apologies from Councillors Harding, Score, with Councillor Pemberton as substitute.
Thanks very much. Now, disclosures of interest. Councillor Harvey.
Oh, thank you, Chairman. Sorry for the premature interruption. In relation to I think it's item 6, the application in Ulverston, on Monday I took the opportunity to drive around Ulverston in order that I could get an understanding and an appreciation of the nature of the conservation area. I didn't speak to anybody, I didn't see anybody to speak to, and therefore I come with an open mind.
Thanks, Councillor Harvey. And in that respect, it's exactly the same for me, Kira. I took a look around Ferry Lane as well. I wanted to get the context of the conservation area. Didn't simply. Councillor Parry.
Thank you, Chair, and good evening to everyone. I do know members of the applicant for the Ulverston planning application, and therefore I will sit down from the committee. Okay,
thank you, Councillor Parry. Any further declarations? I'm looking around. No. Okay, that's fine. So item 3 on the agenda is the minutes of the meeting held on the 14th of May, which was the very, very short meeting. after the full council meeting. So I'm happy with those minutes. You'll see that on item 4 on the agenda there is something to consider in a second. I'll propose those minutes. Can I have a second and a show of hands? Second? Councillor, you weren't there? Second, Peter and Seraphin, thank you. Show of hands to approve those minutes. How many have we got? Can we just have a show of hands to approve those minutes, please? Councillor Parry, were you at that meeting? We're looking for a show of hands to approve the minutes of the 14th of May.
I wasn't able to attend the whole meeting.
Ah, okay, thank you. Right, okay. How many have we got, Kira? It's okay, thank you very much. Okay, next item on the agenda is item 4. That's to agree the start time of this meeting for the year, and that's something we do every year. And I would propose, given that we have got to hold this meeting at a time when members of the public can readily attend, that we continue to hold this meeting at 6 p.m. That's what I'd like to propose. Councillor Parry?
Can I just double check that I've got the right family for the Alveston application?
Yeah, of course. Just take a break a minute. Yeah. Yes, of course.
A second. I will be stepping down. Thank you.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you. So, just returning to item 4 on the agenda, the start time of the meetings, I'd like to propose that we continue at 6. Councillor Eden, you're happy to second that? Quick show of hands. Everybody in favour of that? Thank you very much. Okay. Okay, so we can move on to the meat of the meeting now. Application 5, item 5 on your agenda, which is the Farm Kings Lane Snitterfield. You'll see from the update report the application's been delegated to officers in line with the Constitution. So we will not be looking at that. Item 6 on the agenda is an application 2403169 Marendi, Ferry Lane, Alveston. And the presenting officer is Neil Hempstead. So, Neil, if when you're ready, if you'd like to take us through the application, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So, on the screen now is a wider context plan just showing the application site within Alveston. So, just going into more detail. So this shows the location of the application site within Alveston, which is an existing dwelling located within the Alveston Conservation Area and is categorised as a significant building within the Alveston Conservation Area report. So the proposal is for the demolition of a front garage, rear flat-roofed extension and conservatory, and the erection of 2-storey front extension, single-storey rear extension and associated landscaping. So just looking at the existing plans, so the existing front elevation, in the committee report there is reference to the front garage which is to be removed, which is just where the cursor is. The front porch will be removed as well. And there's the existing flat roof rear extension and conservatory, both of which propose to be removed. And just giving a side profile, so you can see the rear extensions there and conservatory, and the front projection of the garage and the porch. So looking at the proposed plans, so what we can see here is the front elevation with the 2-storey front projecting extension there. Some changes to the glazing and the windows, the removal of the 2 chimneys. And to the rear of the proposal is the replacement of the existing rear extension, and again some changes to the existing windows and some proposed glazing. So just looking at those plans in a bit more detail, just to give members an understanding in terms of the scale. So just following my cursor there, you can see the outline of the existing extension to the front and just the porch there. And to the rear, the extension is very similar in scale to that which is being replaced. So effectively following the cursor there, and in that area is where the conservatory is currently located, just following the outline there with the cursor. And looking at the side views, so again you can see the rear extension there, and the front projecting extension just there. And from the other side, again, the rear extension and the front projecting extension. So just to give members some context, so this is looking front on to the existing dwelling, and again you can see the porch and the front extension that I referred to earlier. This is a photograph of the existing rear extension, the flat roof rear extension, and the conservatory there. So, Chairman, there is one update that's detailed in the update report which relates to confirmation that both chimneys are to be removed. And, Chairman, the application is recommended for refusal for the 2 reasons detailed in the committee report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Neil. Okay, so we have some speakers on this item, and we'll start with the applicants. It's Andrew Haslam and Mark Hazelden from the Alveston Villagers Association. If you'd like to come up to the desk at the front, thank you. Thank you very much, Councillor Rolfe. I have 3 minutes to present. I don't know how you want to split it between yourselves, whatever you want to do, really. I will give you a little reminder as you 30 seconds before your 3 minutes.
I'm going to start and then hand over to Andy.
Yeah, okay, that's fine.
It'll be about 2 minutes, it'll be about a minute.
You've got something to show as well, by the looks of things. You're going to put that up.
Could we please have we sent through some slides. So
Yeah.
That one start with, yeah.
Okay, right, okay, so if, right, so your microphone is on, yours isn't on.
Yeah, so yours comes off.
Yeah, okay, so if you can speak into the microphone, and then when you're ready to start, then just over to you, thank you.
Okay, well, thank you very much. The village strongly supports this application, as we believe that the public benefit outweighs the less than substantial harm. In particular, we believe the application would enhance the conservation area, as what's there at the moment actually stands out as a bit of an eyesore, and it's totally out of character with the conservation area as a whole. If you look from the west, which is what that slide is, you'll see that it's dominated by a 25-year-old garage, which blocks the view to the neighbouring properties. If you look at this one on the left, that's when you walk down the road, get a bit closer, you still only see the garage, and the neighbouring property blocks out the front of the house. Can we have the next slide, please? Next slide, please. Yeah, sorry, no, the one before, sorry. Previous slide. Sorry, this is, yeah, that's right. Yeah, if you're coming from if you're coming in the other direction, you'll see an urban-looking car park, which is covered in black tarmac, which was originally used for storing cars from a repair shop and petrol pumps opposite. And you'll also see the rather unattractive side of the building next door. The proposed scheme would open up the view from the west and soften the view from the east, as it would block out about half of the neighbouring building wall. The house itself is in a very poor state of repair, especially inside. You can't live in it at the moment, and it's got unattractive plastic windows. Nearly every house in Ferry Lane has been altered at some stage, and there are numerous examples of houses which have been updated or rebuilt in the conservation area. Could we have the next slide, please, to provide modern family accommodation? I mean, those are some examples. The ones on the left are all in Ferry Lane. The one on the right is a little cottage in the middle, which has been extended in both directions. So there's a lot of that in Alveston already. The proposed scheme is relatively modest compared to others which have been permitted in the conservation area, and it complies with the village design statement by retaining a slate roof. It's got wooden windows, not aluminium, and it's got white painted brick, which is used throughout the village. We're surprised at the subservience point. After removing the garage, the net increase in the reconfigured house footprint will be small, 10.5%, and the roof line on the extension will be lower than the main house. Most importantly, the extension will be in a much better position relative to the neighbouring properties than the existing garage, and it'll be set back 5 metres from the building line of the neighbouring property. Finally, the village believes there's real public benefit in young families reconfiguring tiled houses for modern family living. These families really help make Alveston a great community. Thank you, Andy.
I've been a resident of Alveston for 5 years with my 2 school-aged children. We're a dynamic modern family, and my father also lives in the village. It's fundamental that we improve the conservation area by creating an in-keeping, sustainable and modernised family home. The forward extension enables modern living spaces, a gym for physical and mental health, kitchen diner, kids play space, adult lounge and an office for home working. I heavily consulted with the neighbours, the AVA, my local councillor. Nobody likes Marandy today. The proposed improvements are unanimously supported. No request was made for archaeology survey. I'll of course support what's needed. Please can the committee consider the significant benefits of the proposal and how the proposal improvements outweigh any harm? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, members, do we have any questions for the presenters, Mr. Haslam or Mr. Hazelden? Yeah, Mr. Eden. Councillor Eden, sorry.
Thank you. Good evening. The neighbouring property to the east, the larger property that you said about blocking out, what is that and who lives there? Or is it?
It's half of the terrace house, and if you look at that wall there, is it possible to zoom in on it at all? I don't know. Yeah, that's quite a good way of looking. The extension will come about halfway along that wall. It'll block out about half of it. It's lower than the height of that, and it'll hide that rather ugly flat-roofed extension on the side there. So as you're walking up Ferry Lane, instead of seeing what effectively looks like the end of a terrace, you'll see half of it will be softened by a new building.
Follow up?
Please. And how do they feel about having their property blocked out, as a question?
It's a great question. Actually, they were the first people I approached when I started the development. It's currently a rented property, but I spoke with the owners. They questioned their right to light and if it's complies. So I had a survey commissioned, which I submitted to the council, I think 3 times a survey. Unfortunately, didn't make it onto the planning portal. But it says it met the requirements. And as you saw from the application, nobody opposed the application.
Thank you, Councillor Eden. Any other councillors who would like to ask a question? No? Okay, well, thank you very much, gentlemen. Thanks for your presentation. The next speaker is Councillor Rolfe. Good evening, Councillor Rolfe. Hello. Hello. How are you? Thank you. As you know, you have 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And I'll give you 30. I'll give you a little warning as you approach the end. Okay. So when you're ready to go.
Sure. Thank you. Firstly, I would like to address the conservation area issue. In the report, it states that Marandy is categorised as a significant building within the conservation area. I, as well as most of the village and the AVA, believe it is significant for its ugliness and out-of-characterness along Ferry Lane. It is an eyesore and seriously does not fit into the street scene of Ferry Lane nowadays. Just look at all that tarmac. The proposed extension will hugely enhance the vista towards the dated and ugly attached garage. By removing this dilapidated old-fashioned garage, you will then have full view of the neighbouring Georgian house, Primrose Cottage. By placing a forward extension on the other side of the driveway, it will cover the extensive long wall of Baytree Cottage next door. As you can see, a very unattractive and bland facade. The applicant will then put in extensive planting to soften up the frontage, which will blend in beautifully with the houses either side and improve the ecology of the area. Sian, the planner, clearly states that regard needs to be given to the distinctive character of villages, including their settings, townscapes, street spaces and built form. And no one is more aware of this than the villages of Alveston. which is why they have put their full support to this application. Secondly, there are many, many examples of forward-facing extensions with gables, and over many years the AVA have been very much in favour of such a design. In fact, the planner emailed the applicant in April, stating she acknowledged there are a large number of forward extensions within the area. There are 2 in Ferry Lane alone, and a further note that this extension is subservient, which some of the others aren't. Also, there are many examples of houses built up to the road, well in front of the building lines. The planner also states that Ferry Lane has mostly detached and double-fronted houses. This is not true. There are, in fact, 8 detached houses split between double-fronted and triple-fronted, and 21 attached houses split the same way. The quote about unmade Ferry Lane is from a 1969 conservation report on Alveston. This was updated in 1992, but it appears that the words are taken from the 1969 version. The section of Ferry Lane where Marendi is situated is in fact a fully tarmacked, made-up, normal-size road and has been for the past at least 45 years. It is not the narrow lane. It is only when you walk around the other side of the pub when you reach the unmade narrow lane alongside the river, where is also a perfect version of a house with a prominent double-gabled forward extension. Another quote from the same outdated report mentions non-designated heritage assets with houses up to the edge of a narrow lane. These words have not been amended in 1992, but since 1969 and even more so after 1992, most of the houses on Ferry Lane have been altered and had massive extensions, leaving the unattractive and ugly Marendi sticking out like a sore thumb. It is very concerning that these references are from a report over 55 years old. It is also very misleading to you as a committee. The report also states many times that Marendi is a flat-fronted, double-fronted house. It is in fact an L-shaped, triple-fronted house, as the current old garage is part of the living space of the house, and this has been the case since the early 90s. The proposal before you will be an L-shaped, triple-fronted house with extension on the other side to improve the whole vista of the lane, as explained earlier. Again, the report states the proposed windows will be aluminium. They're not. The windows will be painted timber, as on the drawings in front of you, bringing it back to its original condition. The plastic windows of the current house adds to its ugliness. The applicant will continue with slate tiles matching the original building. However you assess this application, please accept that the applicant has spent many, many days and hours liaising with myself and members of the AVA and the planner to address all the issues which have been brought up by us all, and has altered it as much as he possibly could, but still maintaining a good-sized family home, something the village needs but lacks. It has full support of the village. I think Sian's issue was the forward extension, but as I explained earlier, we all believe it does fit in with the village design statement, as there are many examples elsewhere. I truly believe that the public benefit to the village and villagers and design benefit far outweighs the less than substantial harm. Please can I ask that you approve this application? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Rolfe. Members, do we have any questions for Councillor Rolfe, please? No, doesn't look like anybody wants to cross-examine you, Councillor Rolfe. Okay. So you'll be free to go. Thank you very much for your presentation. Thank you. Members, you have now an opportunity to ask for points of clarification from the planning officers. Councillor Adam.
Thank you, Chair. With regards to the comments made by the ward member, from the report it says that the property falls within the conservation area and the building is categorised as a significant building within that. What qualification and justification is there behind that that designation? Is it just that it's within the conservation area, or is there something specific about this building as it is that makes it significant?
It's specifically referred to within the conservation area report. If you refer to page 22, the fourth paragraph down, it talks about the fact that it is the conservation area report which specifically sorry, that's the wrong section. That's the reference about Ferry Lane. I'm sure it is. If you just give me 2 seconds, I'll find it in the report because it is in here. Sorry, it was paragraph 3. Yeah, page 22 is the paragraph above. It says the property falls within Alveston Conservation Area and Marendi is categorised as a significant building within the conservation area in the Alveston Conservation Area report, and that was adopted by Stratford District Council in 1992. I've told you that. That wasn't written in there.
Just to follow up then, so with regards to that, what is it within the conservation area report that highlights its significance, as it were? Or do we just take it on block that it's significant because the report says it is?
So the report actually lists a number of significant non-listed buildings within the conservation area. So it's gone through the conservation area and looked at the different areas, and within those areas looked at buildings which are of significance. And Marendi is part of the list, which within the Ferry Lane to Kissing Lane area. So it's within a list of a number of other properties, which include the Ferry Inn, for example, and Jasmine Cottage. So they've specifically looked at all the buildings and formed a list of which the application site is included.
Just for clarification, Neil, can you just identify for us roughly how many properties are on that list?
Well, within the area where Marendi is included, there's approximately 14 properties, of which Marendi is in there, and there's other ones listed within the conservation area as well in different areas. So there's quite a significant number.
Thank you. Councillor Harvey.
Thank you, Chairman. If this was a listed building, then I would know that we were under a statutory obligation to pay special regard to a listed building. It's described as a significant building. In planning terms, what does that mean? What weight do we give that? Because it's significant. And is significant simply a matter of interpretation? One person's significant might not be another person's significant. Is that a fair comment?
So in terms of, so if I just direct you to page 22 of the report. So there is, the first 2 paragraphs there deal with less than substantial harm to a designated heritage asset, and this harm must be justified and weighed against the public benefits of the proposal. And that's where we're looking at the conservation area. And then for non-designated heritage assets, proposals will be assessed having regard to the scale of any harm or loss and the significance of the heritage asset. And that's what we're looking at in terms of the building of significance. So you're looking at 2 different elements there. Looking at the conservation area, and you're looking at the and the building of significance as well. And there's 2 different assessments against those, as detailed in the committee report.
Yes, of course, Councillor Harvey. Yeah.
Thank you for that. In the reasons given for recommendation to refuse, there is reference to the proposed development being over-prominent, incongruous and so on. What's the definition of over-prominent as opposed to simply prominent? And if it was simply prominent, would that be acceptable? I'm really asking whether prominence and over-prominence is merely in the eye of the beholder.
I think yes, in one sense, when an officer talks about something being overly prominent, it can mean that the way that it's kind of read within the streetscape, it might be it's out of character or incongruous, or the scale of it. I think it's difficult to specifically say it's prominent or it's overly prominent and how to distinguish that, because I think, as I have said, I think in previous committees it's all in the context, and the officer has made quite an extensive assessment of the scale of the building itself as existing, as it was originally built, and accounting for the existing extensions and how it actually sits within the street scene, and then how the extensions on the front of the property will actually read, not only within the street scene, but in terms of the relationship of the existing house within that street scene. And that's how they've come to that assessment about it being overly prominent.
Councillor Harvey, are you happy with that answer, or do you want to pursue this a little further?
It's a matter of interpretation.
Interpretation.
I will do just that.
Thank you very much. Councillor Eden, next.
Thank you, Chair. The applicant spoke about the facade being white render, but the plans that I saw didn't look like that. So could I just see the plans or the projections of it for my sanity? Because some of this will be down to colour and prominence. That all has an effect. Please.
Right, so at the moment, it's not rendered, it's painted brick. And my understanding is...
I meant the proposed plans. So, yeah, I can see that. Yeah, that'd be
so
great.
at the moment, that is what it is. And my understanding is that it's to be painted brick, the extension as well. So it will effectively match what's there existing.
Okay. Councillor Fleming, you were next.
If you could clear up a bit of information, the ward member said that they weren't going to be aluminium grey windows, as in paragraph 4 on page 22. It says new aluminium grey windows will cumulatively alter the appearance. So if they're not going to be aluminium grey windows, they're going to be painted windows, will that take away some of this cumulative amount of information that makes you come to the decision to refuse?
So just having a look at the plans. Yeah.
Sorry, we're just checking the application form just to see whether the materials have been specifically specified. We don't necessarily we want to make sure we give you the correct answer. If you could just give us a couple of minutes, thank you.
While you're looking for that, Emily, I know Councillor Pemberton wanted to ask a question, but Councillor Rolfe, you indicated you've got a point of clarification you'd like to make. If it's in respect of what we're currently talking about, it's a point of clarification, opportunity to clarify a point. I've got the discretion to say to ask you to present on that, but I don't want you sort of rambling off on lots of rabbit holes. Is it a point of clarification
Thank you.
about
It's a
one of the
point-
issues?
Okay, it's a point of clarification about the significance of the building, and it's quite an important point. In the conservation report, there are 29 houses listed in Ferry Lane that are significant non-listed buildings within the conservation area. 17 of them have been either demolished, rebuilt, or extended. And I think that is a significant point of clarity to make.
Thank you very much, Councillor Rolfe. Yeah, so that report's 1992, isn't it? Thank you for that. Thank you for that. So we're back to the windows.
So just looking at the plan on the screen, just looking at the material schedule, so painted match and brickwork, which goes back to the previous answer. And then in terms of the windows, is painted timber windows and doors. And then it says, I think it says PPC aluminium windows, doors to the rear ground floor. So timber to the front and then aluminium at the rear ground floor. Slate roof tiles and bound resin surface driveway and permeable paving.
Does that answer your question, Councillor Fleming?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Pemberton, thank you for your patience.
Thank you, Chair. A few questions just for some clarification. So my assumption is that we as the Planning Authority conducted the Conservation Area Review, which is now some 38 years old, by my reckoning, 1992? Sorry?
1992, it was adopted in 1992 by the District Council.
2025 now, so that makes it...
It's not...
33. Okay.
Okay, splitting hairs.
Margin for error. It's not the most up-to-date report this committee has ever had presented to it. So, question around that. So if we look at core strategies that must be reviewed on a 5-year basis, and by inference, neighbourhood development plans must be reviewed, what, if anything, is the review cycle for conservation area reviews? That's my first question.
We'll take that first question. If there is such a thing as a process for reviewing conservation areas, I don't probably think there is, to be honest, because I know in Luddington ours is a similar age. But hang on a minute. We've got a potential answer from a portfolio holder. If it's an answer to that specific question, I'm happy to take it. Councillor Coucher, thank you. Please speak into the microphone. Just press the button, it should come on.
We have in actual fact put money in the budget this year for reviewing all conservation areas because they've not been done, and we are at the moment out to tender for consultants to start on.
Thank you, Councillor Coucher. As the planning officer is pointing out, it's probably not relevant, but your point is taken. I think, Councillor Pemberton, that this is a document that's 1992.
Yeah. So it confirmed my suspicion that there isn't a process. But we are guided that we must give consideration to the most up-to-date planning document. So I note that the application accords with the village design statement, which dates back to 2015.
Could it be a question of clarification? Can you come on to a question? You know,
I'm coming to it.
Reasonably, in a reasonably timely manner, please.
It will be, Chair. So we have a design statement, 2015. There is also the Stratford-upon-Avon Neighbourhood Development Plan, and the Town Council appears not to object because it's in accordance with the Neighbourhood Development Plan for Stratford-upon-Avon. So the question then is, if this application appears to be in accordance with more up-to-date policies, the weight that we can accord to that versus the 1992 conservation area. I got there in the end, Chair.
Yeah, thank you. So this is about the weight of this conservation area plan.
I think it's for members to decide how much weight they give to certain elements. But what I would say is that officers are not saying that the proposals don't accord with those policies simply because of the recognition of this within the conservation area report. They've made an assessment about the impact on the existing building itself, the scale of the extensions. So that's one element. They've also made an assessment in terms of the impact on the conservation area, and they have utilised some of the information that is available within that conservation area report. How much weight you want to give to that conservation area report is one thing, but what I would say is that is not the only thing that officers have taken into account as part of their recommendation to members.
Thank you, Councillor Pemberton. Have you got a follow-up question?
Yeah, I'm just not clear on the answer around the precedents as far as more up-to-date policies are concerned. I absolutely get it's not the only part of this, but is it as decision makers, can we give more weight to more recent policies? Or must we follow the conservation area report?
The weight that is afforded to up-to-date policies, obviously this is I would say if you are minded to, you are justified in giving less weight to the conservation area report. However, as I have said, officers have not said that in the absence of that report, or in the absence of weight of that report, that this would comply with policy. There are two reasons for refusal. One references the conservation area report, and the other one is more focused on the impact on the existing dwelling itself.
Just, if I may, I'd like to just follow up that with a question about the village design statement, which is a more recent report. Am I right in saying this has been reviewed and the most recent iteration of this VDS is February 2025? Is that correct? Or is it 2015? Thank you.
Chair, I think the 2025 is when when the submission was
made. I see that now, yeah. Thanks. So I just wanted to highlight the fact that Village Design Statement 2015 is also has material weight as well. Thank you. Councillor Harvey.
A very simple question, at least I think it is. The extension to the front of the house, would officers regard that as being subservient, what's proposed as being subservient to the existing building?
My view is no. If you review reason for refusal 2, it specifically talks about the form of development. So in terms of, obviously, scale forms part of that.
Well, what proportion is the extension to the front of the house in relation to the existing house? I'm trying to get away from having to interpret as opposed to having a firm factual basis for saying either this is subservient or it isn't subservient, because it's really important that we all make a decision based upon the same information.
So were you after some, would it be helpful for some measurements, for example, or?
If you said to me that the proposed extension to the front of the house is 40% of the area of the existing property, I could take that into account. If you said to me it's 120% of the existing property, I take that into account. That's the sort of information put in that sort of way which would help me.
I can give you some existing and proposed floor space figures, which might help, and some measurements. Say, for example, the width and the extension of the front extension, how far it extends from the front of the property. I could give you those sort of measurements if that would be helpful.
Could you give me the footprint of the existing house, two-dimensional footprint, and the two-dimensional footprint for the proposed development to the front of the house?
Neil, have we got that on a slide? Have we got that on a slide that you could show at the same time?
I haven't. How do you extend? Zoom in on this.
Click in the thing and now press escape.
Right.
I'm going to make a point that just has been made to me by our legal advisor. So the information that you're seeking clarification on should come from the planning officers. That's the information that we've got in front of us in respect to the application. The information is not to be coming from the public gallery. So please could you bear that in mind and respect the process that we're going through. Thank you.
We don't have that information to hand, but we can measure it, but it will take us a few minutes if you're happy for that. But I would say this isn't a greenbelt application, and percentages regarding sort of the cumulative increase in floor space, it's not, it doesn't come into an assessment in the same way. We've talked about this, I think, in a committee, a couple of committees ago, where understanding the scale and your assessment of whether it is incongruous or out of scale with the existing property, a numerical measurement such as a percentage increase, it tells you one thing that we often use in Greenbelt. But when you're assessing the visual impact of something, it comes down to how that extension looks against the property. So things like scale, how far it projects, is it in keeping with the form, the existing kind of visual character of that property. So I'm happy for us to get that information, but I think it just needs to be in the context of, as I say, in terms of what the officer has said within their report.
Thank you, Emily. I think that is useful that you say what you said, but it does answer the question, I think, in respect of Councillor Harvey's challenge about whether or not this is subservient or not. There is already a forward-projecting garage on this property that's part of the living space, so I think it'd be useful information. So we'll wait until they come back with that, but if there are further questions for clarification, perhaps while we wait on that information. It looks like none, so we're probably exhausted waiting for that little bit of clarification on this assessment.
I mean, in terms of what I can give you, and I think what's in the stated in the committee report as well, that overall there's approximately 30 metre squared increase in floor space.
So what proportion does that represent of the existing building?
I think we'd have to do a quick calculation on the volume of the building for that.
So what's the existing floor space? What's the proposed floor space?
So, doing a rough one, you're talking about 40.
Yeah, we could do that. I suggested that we adjourn for a couple of minutes if anybody wants a glass of water or just to take a deep breath. Wait till get an answer from the case officer.
I would hasten to add that obviously we have done these calculations as quickly as we can for members. So this is an approximation. This is not exact. I would say it's about 13% based on our calculations here.
So clarifying, 13% additional volume or floor space? So square metres, 13%. Okay. Members, question, Councillor Pemberton.
Thank you, Chair. Could you spin up the slides again? I just want to look at the front projection. I recall there was a slide that sort of gave some comparator between what's there currently and what's proposed. I recall there was a slide in the officer's presentation. If I could just spin that up again, please, just for my recall.
Was it that one, Councillor?
No, I think there was the side one, and it seemed to show what's the prominence of what's currently there versus. If you want to click forward, no. Right.
That
so that's
one.
What's proposed, yes?
Yeah. So effectively, the outline you can see there of the front projecting garage, and you can see the conservatory there at the rear.
So is it projecting further forward than the current garage?
Yes.
I think there's a further slide. I'll just spin to the next one. No, okay, no. Right, thank you.
Okay, right, any further questions? Points of clarification? No, in which case, thank you very much, Neil, for that, and Emily. We can move on to discussion and debate. So, in respect to this application, who would like to start with their thoughts and views? Anybody? So as to Councillor Hencher-Seraphin, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. As the ward member said, there are numerous extensions larger than this in the area. In my brief saying that I think it would improve the aesthetics of the street scene, it would benefit for modern family living, and there's no objections, there seems to be all support, so I would say that's a public benefit as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hencher-Seraphin. Councillor Harvey.
Thank you, Chairman. I can see why the officer wants to refuse this, because the essence of my appreciation of Ferry Lane and the architecture is it is simplicity. It's the straight lines, it's the relative uniformity of the buildings, the original buildings at least. But my bugbear is the garage. The existing garage is an eyesore, and I thought that the photograph that was shown by the Villagers Association with the garage on the left looking northwards and illustrated the block on the view, the perspective on the existing houses that garage already imposes was very telling. My view is that not on the grounds that the house needs improving, because it's not terribly habitable at the moment. It doesn't need an extension to make a house habitable. My view is that this is an allowable extension, and I would go against the officer's recommendation. the extension on the basis of the approximate figure of 13%, that to me is not over prominent. It may be prominent, but it's not over prominent in my view. It is subservient in terms of height. It removes the garage, which then opens the vista to the rest of the street for those buildings to be appreciated. I think that's a public benefit, and I think that's quite a significant public benefit to the conservation area. I think it's an improvement to the conservation area. And for those reasons, I disagree with the grounds for the recommendations, CS8 and CS9. I just interpret them in a different way, and I think this would be a benefit. And what underpins my view is that the people who have the most to lose in terms of degradation of a conservation area are the existing residents. And the support that's been given by the villagers through their association couldn't have been stronger, as I interpret it. So I am quite happy I'll go as far as recommending that proposal of grant and look for a seconder.
Well, before we look for that, can I just clarify something with you, please, Councillor Harvey, that you're saying then that you think that the, rather than the officer's conclusion about the non-designated asset and this change not enhancing this particular area, you'd say that you in your view, it would enhance?
In my view, it would enhance because for two reasons. One is it would remove the garage, which I think is a huge impediment. And secondly, if you're then, with the development in place, if you're travelling south down Ferry Lane, you've actually got something interesting to look at, rather than what's there at the moment.
And the second point on CS9, then just clarifying with you about the question of it being incongruous and overly large in scale, you would say you would disagree with that and say that you didn't feel it was of that scale and prominence.
And I think that, correct, and I think the figure of 13%, although it's approximate and back of an envelope, I accept all that, but it's not hugely wrong,
yeah.
And I don't think that can be regarded as anything other than subservient.
Okay, thank you. In which case, yeah, I'll take that as a proposal, Councillor Harvey. Thank you. Councillor, who was next, by the way? Councillor Pemberton, sorry. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'm prepared to second Councillor Harvey, and on the following basis, in no particular order. But I note that weight has been given to the 1992 policy, yet there are more recent policies, and there is no indication that this application would fall foul of those. I note there isn't a mechanism, as I surmised, around reviewing conservation areas, but do note, but is not part of my decision-making process, the comments made by the portfolio holder. Other than that, it reinforces that policies do need to be updated, and that's a general point. There was an application with the conservation area report in mind that was granted for the prominent single-storey garage, and the effect of that has been to create an incongruous and overbearing appendage to the building, to my eye, that is not in keeping with the conservation area. I actually think the broader front prominence that is proposed here, that is more uniform, if you will, rather than one sticky out bit, if that's a technical planning term. If not, it is now. And has, looking at that plan there, does have a simple feel to it. I'm not seeing lots of particular design features, so I don't think it changes and adversely impacts the setting of the building itself. I note policy CS2 talks about development proposals which lead to less than substantial harm, and the officer is clear it's less than substantial harm. amongst the public benefits of a proposal that must be justified and weighed against any harm is the securing of the optimum viable use of a building. And that is clear that we have a building that is in some state of disrepair, and this application would bring this building back into an optimal viable use. And therefore I take a different view on policy CS8. In terms of policy CS9, I do actually think it is a reasonably good quality, high quality design will be achieved, etc., etc. And to me, it is quite a good design to optimise this building. And with all of that in mind, I note the officer's conclusion, and again, like Councillor Harvey, I don't differ from that as a rational approach, but as a decision maker, I take a different view, would refer to a different interpretation of CS8 and CS9, and the more up-to-date policies weigh more in my decision making than the village state, the conservation area report.
Thanks. Councillor Pemberton, just to be really clear, we had a proposal. Are you seconding the proposal that Councillor Harvey made, or are you making a slightly different proposal to second? Because Councillor Harvey focused on CSA, as I asked him a minute ago what his key reasons were.
I thought I was in line with...
Are you saying that you're in line with what I said in respect to Councillor Harvey? Okay, thanks very much, because you just added quite a lot more into that. Anybody else like to speak on this? Councillor Adam.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm in agreement with the previous two speakers. The point that I'd like to add in terms of how the context of this building is read in the street scene is the step back, because I think that's significant to how I read that whole area. Looking at it, as Councillor Harvey said, I can see where the officers were coming from with the uniform, fairly straight line of the surrounding buildings. What's different from this particular building is it steps back and you've got the adjacent side elevation up against the boundary. I think what the proposal is doing is effectively sort of regularising the plan of the building with the plan of the plot almost, so that the L shape follows the line of the existing development, which makes it more sympathetic to the existing street scene than the existing garage arrangement, which is the reverse, which essentially projects off that line. So I think there's a degree of sympathy within the arrangement there, which can be read in a different way to what the officers have said. Notwithstanding, I do appreciate where they were coming from. And so I think that goes against the recommendation on CS9. And then looking at CS8, yes, I think section C talks about the high quality design. I think the sensitivity comes through some of the more minute aspects of it, particularly the subservience of the arrangement.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else like to enter discussion or any views? In which case, I go back to you, Councillor Harvey, please. So you're making a proposal to you're making a proposal to grant against the recommendation of the officers based upon the fact that you think that the development would enhance the situation and be in accordance with CS8, and that the design would also accord with CS9, picking up the point that Councillor Adam just made, that the layout as well would be more sympathetic to the street scene than it is currently. And I'd need to ask you, if a vote is taken and we resolve to grant, then clearly we'll need conditions attached to this permission. And will you be happy for those conditions to be delegated to the officers?
That's fine with me.
And as a seconder, Councillor Pemberton, would you also agree with what I've just said?
Yes.
In terms of that proposal? Okay, hang on a second. That's fine then, in which case we can put that to a vote. So the proposal is to grant this development at, let's see, I just need to remind myself what it is, at Merendi, which is 2403-169, in accordance with the discussion that we've had in respect of CS8 and CS9 with conditions delegated to the planning officers. So I can take a show of hands. All those in favour, please. That's a unanimous decision. So committee resolves to grant the application for Merendi, which is 2403169. Thank you all for your participations. Okay, right. We're going to move on now to the next agenda item, members. Please welcome back Councillor Parry. Okay, so the next agenda item is the item 7 on the agenda. That's application 2500248, and it's for the erection of a flue chimney for a log burner. And if you'd like to, Abby, please just take us through the application, please.
Thank you, Chair. So the application site is identified by the black dot on the map and is located on a residential development towards the outskirts of Wellesbourne. The site is identified by the red line on the plan, and the property sits on Sunderland Lane, surrounded by adjoining properties 10 and 6 Sunderland Place. Sits on Sunderland Place. The application seeks to erect a flue chimney to serve a log burner on the south side elevation of the property. Here we have some site photos. The application property is on the left-hand side of the central driveway, which belongs to neighbouring number 6. Here's another photo. And as a reminder, the officer recommendation is for approval subject to conditions, and the application is before committee because the applicant is an elected member. Thank you.
Thank you, Abby. We have no speakers registered, so there's an opportunity for you to ask questions. If members would like to ask questions of the case officer, Councillor Pemberton.
Thank you, Chair. Whilst the opportunity to perhaps have some sport with the applicant might be one ordinarily I wouldn't pass up, let's just cut to the chase. This is only here because this is an elected member. There are no objections. It's in accordance with policy. I recommend proposal that we grant planning permission.
Thank you very much, Councillor Pemberton. Councillor Parry's hand shot up very, very quickly, and her finger was very fast on the button as well. Thinking about Wellesbourne, obviously. Councillor Parry.
Absolutely. Whilst it's not my part of Wellesbourne, I'd be delighted to second this proposal because there are no material planning reasons to refuse, and I am aware there are a number of log burners in Wellesbourne, so this is not out of character in respect to the residential development.
So you're happy to second the proposal made by Councillor Pemberton. Thank you very much.
And I'm happy to take on board Councillor Parry's comments about other log burners in Wellesbourne, and would also ask the applicant to note the proposers and seconders of the application.
So any other member wish to speak on this? No? In which case, there is a proposal and a second to go with the officer's recommendation to grant, subject to the conditions and notes which are in the report, and that is for this flue chimney for a log burner 2500248. Could I have a show of hands, please, in favour of that proposal? Unanimous. Thank you very much, members. So, committee's resolved to grant 2500248, 8 Sunderland Place, Wasbourne. Oh, sorry. No, you just resolved to grant this, haven't we? 2500248. Sorry, Emily. Try and keep up, please. Thanks. Okay, one break while we get back to the agenda. So, item 8 on the agenda is application Tree Preservation Order 042032 at Sharma Farm Cottage and the access drive alongside the Fossway at Radford Semley, and the presenting officer is Richard Greenway. Welcome, Richard. And as I said at the beginning of this meeting, the reason for it coming back here is the order that was granted last time was not able to be put in place because of a small procedural error, so we're considering it again now. So, Richard, if you'd like to take us through the application, please. I'm sure members will be interested. Well, since there are no speakers, I can ask members if you want to see the presentation or not. So would you like to see the presentation, or would you rather not see the presentation? It's up to you, members.
If the officer has done the work, I'd prefer to see it.
Thank you, Councillor Harvey. I think we should see it because there's quite a bit of detail, but because there's no speakers, we wouldn't actually need to do that. But Richard, over to you. Richard was expecting to go straight to the windmill, but now he's got to fire up his laptop, which Richard's laptop takes coal and logs, doesn't it?
So, no, you need to share. No, where's it? You need to join the Teams meeting.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, councillors. I'm going to read this from a script, so excuse me. The presentation relates to the raising of TPO 42042 SDC 760, shown in the black dot on the plan. The trees to be TPO'd are on the plan, following plan. As your landscape officer, I visited the site to assess a refused planning application and found that some enabling works had been undertaken affecting trees and therefore raised a draft TPO. The applicant's arboricultural consultant raised an objection to the draft order. I took on board these objections and therefore raised the order before you tonight. The applicant has maintained their objection to the order issued. A review of the trees, given more time to assess them, was undertaken, and those trees suitable for protection are shown on the order due to their collective landscape value as well as individual merit. The trees screen the adjacent glasshouse and solar arrays from the wider landscape views from the public domain shown in the slides. So if I just run through those. Your officer's recommendation is to confirm that order is made to include the trees. And I'll read a list. It's 7 individual oaks, 2 individual horse chestnuts, 1 aspen, 1 field maple, 1 silver birch, a group of 9 poplar in G1, a group of 4 oak in G2, and an area of mixed broadleaf woodland W1. I'll only add to that they're mainly oak. There are 2 limes in there as well and some silver birch. This concludes the presentation. Oops. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Richard. Members, any questions for Richard? This is a very important group of trees, and Richard's done a diligent job in looking at them. So we just need to have a proposal, which I'm happy to make, to confirm this TPO as presented by Richard. Can I have a seconder, Councillor Adam? Thank you. And we can move to... Sorry, it just caught my eye. It just caught my eye, that's all it was. Right, so we can move to a vote to go with the officer's recommendation on TPO 042032, confirming the tree preservation order as made, as you've seen on these trees. So all those in favour, please. Thank you very much. Good. Okay. So that's unanimous. Thank you very much, Richard. Before you all pack up, there's just one more agenda item, which is any other business. There isn't any business. But I'd just like to conclude the meeting by just reminding us all, really, that when we're in planning committee, of course, we're looking at the applications in front of us and the information that's been submitted by officers. It's very easy to get drawn into members of the public trying to influence and present information that might actually not have been included with the application, and that is the danger. The other thing is these meetings are recorded live, and you know, we should make sure that the conversations about these applications are recorded as we're going through this process. Okay, so on that note, I thank you all for attending and your contributions. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.